Well, it looks like it didn't take Miller Lite very long to come out and try to defend themselves. And in this scenario, they're actually doubling down on their ad that they've been getting called out about ever since the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing happened with Bud Light. Now, apparently, this ad that they're talking about came out in March for Women's Month or something along those lines. I don't know. I lose track of all these pandering months, but apparently it came out in March. But they're doubling down and tripling down and saying that, oh, they were wrong for using women in bikinis to sell Miller Lite in 2003, and they regret it, apparently. Why that is? Well, apparently Miller Lite probably was taken over by a majority of women, and all of these women never get laid whatsoever. So I have an article here from the Daily Mail, and it says, women shouldn't be forced to mud wrestle in order to sell beer. Miller Lite trashes its 2003 catfight ad as it hits back at critics over its apology for using women in bikinis to sell beer, as Trump advisor slams the firm. Now, again, you are using what's the tools that are available to you, right? In my opinion, to sell the beer to your demographic, right? So obviously, men like looking at women. Unless you are a part of the LGBTQ community, you most likely like looking at women, right? So of course, they're going to use hot women to sell their beer. That's just something that makes the most sense. You're not going to necessarily pull a Bud Light and use a male dressed up in female clothing to sell beer to other straight males. That doesn't make any sense. But you using biological hot women to sell beer to males who are also biological and straight, that would make the most sense. But unfortunately, Miller Lite has decided to forget their roots, forget what made them successful in the first place, and push the feminism ideology like a lot of these corporations are doing. So we're going to get into the article, guys. But of course, before we do, just consider leaving me a subscribe because we're on our way to 18,000 subscribers. And consider giving this video a like so you can push us out into the YouTube algorithm. It says Miller Lite has hit back after the brewing giant was criticized for apologizing over its history of using bikini-clad women in their advertisements. Molson Coors, who owns Miller Lite, was quick to defend its latest 1 minute and 30-second advertisement with comedian Ilana Glazer with the tagline "Bad shit to good shit." The company released a campaign for Women's History Month in March, okay, there you go, in which it brought up old marketing materials to turn them into compost, which could then be used to make fertilizer. But the footage has resurfaced and was criticized in the wake of Bud Light's disastrous campaign with trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney and has been slammed by a senior Trump advisor. A spokesperson for Molson Coors hits back at the claims that the advertisement was woke, telling DailyMail.com this video was about two things: worm poop and saying women shouldn't be forced to mud wrestle in order to sell beer. Now, you could just tell by looking at this woman that this woman is a feminist. I'm just like, it's very easy to kind of pick them apart and see who's who in public. And I think it's hilarious to me that in this advertisement, they would not show the women's faces. They actually blurred out all the women's faces. And the reason they did that is because they didn't want to have to pay them any kind of royalties or anything like that for using their image, because obviously it's all still contractual. So they hid the women's faces. They didn't want to show them. And they wanted to basically talk down about them, talk shit about them, and make it look like it was such a huge mistake to use women in bikinis to sell beer, especially back then when things weren't so sensitive like they are now. Obviously, it was not a mistake because they made them very successful. It says neither of these things should be remotely controversial, and we hope beer drinkers can appreciate the humor and ridiculousness of the video from back in March. The advertisement featured Glazer taking a tour of advertisements used by the company, which included Meghan Markle, Sofia Vergara, and Pamela Anderson as the face of the brand. One of the most infamous catfight ads saw model Tanya Bollinger and Katana Baker wrestling in a fountain before falling into liquid concrete from the perspective of men drinking the beer and being derided by their female friends. Now, the funny thing is, I guarantee you there was a lot of women that enjoyed this advertisement as well. It's not just men that want to see pretty women on screen. You realize that. This is a proven fact. Like, it's not just men, it's women too. They want to see other beautiful women on screen. And by you taking that away, it upsets them almost as much as it upsets the men. So you're losing both sides when you do stuff like this. The feminist agenda, at least the modern day feminist feminist agenda doesn't have a ton of women behind it supporting it. It may look that way on Twitter and social media, but the fact of the reality is it's not that case. It says the initial advertisement caused an uproar with more than 2,500 complaints being made. It was eventually retired. It first appeared on TV during the National Football League playoffs and made an immediate impact, with the version airing on cable showing Baker saying to Bollinger, "Now let's kiss." However, the company decided to make the most of the infamy, with the commercial running from January to June in 2003 in 4 different formats. Baker and Bollinger's original catfight ad was from the perspective of 2 male friends drinking and telling a story as their female companions scolded them. The initial spot was followed by one in which wrestling a woman turns into a man and another in which 2 men get into touch with their sensitive side. But the final one included Playboy icon Pamela Anderson, who asked if she can join in with the 2 stars, and the girls start a pillow fight. Again, I don't see the problem with any of this. Like, if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. Why'd you do it in the first place? Why was it okay back then, but it's not okay now? Is it because the current political climate? So that means that the current political climate changes and bikinis on hot women suddenly become okay again. You're going to go back to advertisements like this? Of course you are. Of course you are, because you only follow the trends. You're not about true social justice or having any type of ideology. You're following whatever the trend is publicly right now. And right now, everybody's trend for advertising is, hey, let's make all women ugly. Let's make all men feminine. Let's make everything homogenized. Let's make it as woke as humanly possible to try to maximize money, even though we have so much proof behind us that it doesn't maximize any money. It maximizes $0. You end up losing money. Look at what happened with Bud Light. They have lost billions of dollars in both sales and market presence. So it obviously doesn't work the way they think, but they still continue to do it anyway. It says in a new commercial released on March 7, Glazer goes over the history of female brewers and claims without us, there would be no beer. Yeah, of course. That's how it is with feminism. Feminism has started the world. Feminism started everything. Feminism has invented everything. Without women, there would be no light. Without women, there would be no fire. Without women, there would be, you know what I'm saying? Like, feminism thinks that they have completely created the entire world. And the only thing that women have done, obviously, is birth men, which is a very important thing. They have birth people in general, men and women. And without women, we would not have a species. That is absolutely true. But in terms of inventing things, in terms of creating things, 9 times out of 10, more like 9.9 times out of 10, a man is the one that creates something and maintains it. It's not just about creating it. It's also about maintaining it. How many men out there are maintaining these jobs? Think about that. She begins with, here's a little known fact. Women were among the very first to brew beer ever. Centuries later, how did the industry pay homage to the founding mothers of beer? They put us in bikinis. Why are you trying to make it seem as if you were forced to do it? I don't like that. That's the thing. Like, that's a feminist thing where they make it seem like they had no choice and they were forced to do it. Nobody told you you were forced to get into a bikini. And on top of that, if that's the case, you want to use the fact that it's work related, right? That's why they force you. Okay. So what about when you go to a beach? You see women in sweatshirts? Do you see women in pants? No. What do you see women in? Bikinis. 9 times out of 10, they're wearing bikinis, whether it's a 2-piece, a 1-piece. They're still wearing bikinis, bro. So, of course, it seems like women actually like wearing bikinis. So you're trying to make it seem like, oh, they put us in bikinis. It's so degrading. How? How is that degrading? You feminists are so miserable in your lives. You cannot let anybody else have a good time. And that's why nobody likes you. That's why nobody listens to your side. It says a comedian shows off some of the company's old posters and cardboard cutouts with the female faces now pixelated, saying, look at this shit, wild. It's time beer made it up to women. The Broad City Star continues. So today, Miller Lite is on a mission to clean up not just their shit, but the whole beer industry's shit as well. But the recently resurfaced advertisement has sparked some backlash with right-wing commentators weeks after Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch lost millions over its blundering marketing campaign with Mulvaney. Senior Trump advisor Stephen Miller hit out to the advertisement, tweeting in response, so much of the bizarre world we see around us is a result of institutional capture, e.g. the capture of our corporations and advertising firms. But to understand this phenomena, you also have to understand the power of the new social credit scores for corporations, CEI and ESG, the good old ESG scores. We talk about this all the time. ESG scores is how they are getting their money. This is why they are doing all this nonsense in the first place. These companies don't give a shit about any of this message that they're putting out. Some of them might, but most of them don't. They only care about maximizing their scores so they can maximize profit on the back end while they're losing it on the front. That's all it is. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.